This is the Red Alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
Over 5 years, 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Telegram, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim. Today is March the 19th, 2023, and this is episode 275 of the Workshop Podcast. So how the hell is everybody out there? Good to have you all. We're just a couple of minutes late running. No big deal at all. We're going to get the announcements out of the way. Also, fellow delinquents in the workshop, do not forget to share this around on social and let all the rest know that we are live. 3 quick things. Self-Reliance Festival is, I guess you could say this weekend at this point, but it's coming up March 25th, 26th, Camden, Tennessee, $95 for the weekend. You'll get your money's worth with the very first speaker. So if you're anywhere within driving distance, do me a favor and go check out a whole bunch of my friends. If you want to support the workshop, patchofthemonth.co, $10 a month, $100 a year. That's the easiest way. And finally, I've been talking about this, but it was big news. I'm going to be at the Thrivalist Fair in Addy, Washington, May 28th and 29th. We're going to be having a workshop get-together there as well. But the cool news is Paul Wheaton was just announced as a guest speaker there. I'm stoked, and that's $50 for an entire family for the whole weekend. All the links are in the description. And finally, today's tool is the Etexity luggage scale. As you can imagine, we've used that a bunch of times around here in the last few days. It's $11.99 on Amazon, and the thing just absolutely works. I liked it so much, I bought a second one. Well, it's because I couldn't find the first, but it really does. So with that, let's bring on Russ and Andrea. Hey guys, how are you?
Very well.
Good. How are you?
Not bad at all. So I'm a bachelor for the next 18 days. So if anybody hears any critters running and screaming upstairs, it's because the dogs don't have a babysitter tonight. So
we know all about that.
Good. Excellent. So you guys have snow farms in Oklahoma?
Correct. Yeah, we're between Marietta and Medill, just over the Red River from Texas.
Okay. And we met at Self-Reliance Festival, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and you guys were had you just started or just getting ready to start your kind of content creation journey?
I think we were just getting ready to start. We may have done an episode or two.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out how to get it onto Fountain, and you helped me get it onto Fountain.
Yeah, I was when I was prepping for the show, I'm like, I remember Andrea emailed me a while back. I was like, yes, I'm glad. And then I looked and I'm like, yeah, they're kicking ass. They kept going. You guys are up to date with your podcasts. I'm proud of you. So keep it up.
Thank you.
So do you want to, usually when it's one person, I always ask, go back and fill me in on where you came from and what your first job was. And you guys can jump back and forth, but just kind of tell me your story a little bit.
You go ahead. What was your first job?
First job? I don't know. I babysat.
I worked in the fields in Idaho. It was my first job. So I topped corn, dug corrugates, and basically whatever they told me to do from light to dark. And then I got my first job in a restaurant. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven.
Do you remember how much you were getting paid on the farm back then?
I do because Idaho is really weird. So there's no overtime for ag workers in the state of Idaho. So it was $4.25 an hour. Okay. And so it was, like I said, from light until dark. And it was a great first job. It's made everything much easier since.
So how long have you guys been married?
We've been married almost 12 years.
Yeah. This June will be 12 years. August.
Hey, you remembered because I know it was August for us as well, but I can never remember the date. But
he remembers because our youngest was born on our anniversary.
It's the only thing that saved my life.
Oh, that is awesome. That is incredible.
Because she's getting ready for his birthday. I'm like, I gotta get ready for the anniversary thing again.
My dad, he's in the worst scenario ever. His anniversary is on his mother-in-law's birthday. So that's like, oh yeah, that's bad news. Yeah.
That is pretty bad.
So how'd you guys meet?
So we actually went to elementary school together, and then we grew up through high school together. I have 2 girls that we share, but they have a different dad. I was married previously, and he says that he remembers me on my bachelorette party.
No, it was your rehearsal dinner.
A rehearsal dinner. Yeah. I don't remember.
She'd had 1 or 2 too many, but I do remember I was at a coaching clinic that night. We were going to the bar, and I remember thinking, "There's another great gal I'm not gonna get to marry." And then about
that is
yeah. Yeah, and then about 9 years later, we started dating. So that worked out because like I said, we've known each other forever. Ran around. She dated my best friend in high school, and thankfully, it's a really sweet Mormon kid with no game, so there was no hard feelings.
I love it. What part of Utah were you from? Or sorry, not Utah, Idaho. Sorry,
it's one big Mormon plex. Yes. So we lived in Payette. I graduated high school from a little town called Middleton, which is just right outside of Boise now.
Okay. Nice.
And I've been in the military for a really long time. I was college basketball coach for 8 seasons, and then I had to get a real job and went back in the service full time. So I'm coming up on retirement soon. So
what do you do if you want to talk about?
Listen, though, there's no super secret squirrel stuff. I'm an airfield manager. I'm basically a concierge for a gray-haired flying club. So I take care of a bunch of airline pilots that come out for drill weekend. So
are they high maintenance?
That would be, yeah. They're super sweet guys. I have a lot of fun at my job. So I have a ton of fun there.
I love it. How close are you to calling her quits?
I can retire in June of this year, and the longest I can go is about 6 more years. So sometime the next 6 years, I will be here on the farm full time.
So I've had a ton of veterans on here and a lot of active service that still homestead. So how does that work for you guys? Because are you away a fair bit, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, our story, because we started out when we were dating. I told her what I wanted. I said I want a homestead. I want more than 10 acres. Oh, brother, I was broke as a joke. So I had 20 suits. I had all these emblems, shoes. Oh my God! I had a couple hundred pairs of shoes. I was a sneakerhead, and so the first year after we got married, it was a year and a half. Mm-hmm. We did the Dave Ramsey thing. So I sold all my cars. I was on foot. I moved to Providence, Rhode Island. So we were apart 4 out of the first 5 years of our marriage, between job out east, deployments, tech schools, and then I took a job down in Texas. So.
Can we talk a little about that? You're talking about the snowball method for Dave Ramsey?
Yeah.
Because Becky and I did something like it before we knew what it was, but it took us a long time to, I don't know. We didn't even, we knew we dug a hole, but we didn't know how deep it was, right? So,
right.
So when you guys came together, of course, this was different with you two because a little later in life. So did you each bring your own debt, or I guess one? Yeah. Yeah,
we did. So hers was just basically student loan debt. And then for me, like I said, I had a house. I didn't have any student loan debt, but I had, some credit card debt. I had the cars. I had a home equity line of credit. And we were upside down the house because I bought the house before the housing crash. I bought the house in 2005, right before the peak in Idaho. And then I ended up, that was 2014 when we sold the house. Wish we would have held on. But it was, I sold it for $2,000 more than I bought it for.
Okay.
After putting 20 grand into it to fix it up. So the housing market in Idaho didn't recover probably until 2016, 2017. Mm-hmm. And then it just, the last 3 or 4 years back there, it's been insane. So
it's been the story everywhere. So,
but yeah. So I had that debt. We talked about it, and I had a plan. That when we started dating, I knew what I was going to do. And that's the whole thing about Dave Ramsey. God, what a shtick that is. The entire plan you can put in a half sheet of paper.
It's so damn simple.
But it really is.
Live it. Yep.
And the guy's made a $250 million empire out of it. God bless him. Good on it, right? He's helped a ton of folks. But it was, sell everything that's, debt backed, pay off everything, and live like a hobo for a couple of years. And for the entire time I was in Rhode Island, I ate the same meal every day for 18 months.
What was it?
Banana for breakfast, a slice of pizza, and a Dr. Pepper at lunch, and 2 eggs and a fried diced up potato for dinner.
Wow.
So, I was serious about it, but I had $60,000 in debt, and I paid that off in 18 months.
Nice. You know what's funny? Almost everybody you talk to that does it, it's usually 18 months to 2 years. Now, I know there's some that are in worse cases, but almost everybody I've talked to, that seems to be when you finally go right to the wall and decide you're going to do it. It's like 2 years or a little less.
Well, and I didn't get my student loans paid off until I turned 40. And so our oldest daughter, she took a gap year. She graduated last year, and now she's looking at college, and we're like, listen.
Yes, I know. Trust me, I know.
Don't go to college if you don't know what you want to do. Don't just go and pile up all this debt, because then you're just going to end up paying it forever.
Yeah, and it really is a millstone on your neck, right? But the big thing with her, the way we've talked with both the older girl, because we have a 2.5-year-old and we have a 19-year-old and she'll be 17 in May. And the way I've talked to them about deciding on their college plan is you have to bring me a business plan. So how much is it going to cost? What's it going to pay? How many people are competing in it? How old is the industry? Because you want to pick an industry where everyone's in their 50s or 60s, because there's going to be a ton of room for upward mobility.
That's a great tip. I never thought of that.
Yeah. So it's just like farming, right? You've got the average age of farmers in the States somewhere well over 60.
Yep.
So there's going to be a ton of opportunity moving forward on that side. And that's something we can talk about later on. Is I've got some land leased from an 82-year-old for $0. He's just happy to have somebody take care of it. Go, look at the fences, clear land out, So that side, there's all kinds of opportunity right now if you're looking for it. With all the doom and gloom stuff, there's never been more opportunity if you're willing to go work and network and leverage things.
Man, I love hearing that, because we have a saying here, the must be nice saying. We always talk about the must be nice people, because when you say something like you've got a bunch of land leased for $0, people who aren't get shit doners are going to look at that and think, well, isn't he lucky? Well, no, I bet you went out and made your own luck, right? That's exactly what happens.
Well, and it's 80 acres that hasn't been touched in probably 25, 30 years. So it is overgrown. The fences are kind of beat down, and I've been working on it for a year already, and it's still not something I can put cows on. It's probably going to be 6 more months, and short of me, renting a dozer at $200 an hour to have somebody come and clear lanes. There's just no other way to do it. So it's but free firewood, lots of exercise. So on that side.
So you, Russ, were the one that came up with the idea of homesteading, or you brought it with you?
Yes.
I did, yeah. So I
like that, Andrea. Yeah. I know, I get it.
Yeah. So I grew up on I guess a sustenance farm is probably the closest way to describe it. So we had a couple hundred acres in Arkansas that was family land when I was a kid, and it grew rocks and snakes and nothing profitable. And my parents, and that was the thing too, right? My dad was born in 1924, fought World War II. So I'm just like my boy. My dad's super old, but my parents looked at me as free labor, right? And that's one of the things about Joel Salatin, for all the marketing and folksy down home humor and stuff. His talking about making sure your kids get paid for everything they do on the farm, man, that makes sense. Because I was on the first thing smoking at 18 to go make money for myself. So, and that was a really big thing we missed out on the opportunity for the Reds. They were just too old. And moving from Idaho to Texas, where the last farm was, it's hotter than the surface of the sun there for about 4 months of the year. And
everything wants to kill you.
It's basically Australia with better barbecue.
I was going to say, that's what it sounds like, Australia.
So it's we missed that window for them. And that's the thing for Samuel. I mean, we're already talking about that, and we're very conscious about giving him his little fiefdom, and everything you make on this is yours. And
that's great news, or great advice.
Yeah. And Salatin talks about that in a couple of his books, but ideally what we'd like to have is the kids either just being able to live here, here's a quarter acre for you. Awesome. Go down, work in town, whatever. But helping them get that start. And that's really the thing, right? Because, my dad, him and my mom split at 15, never saw him again. So I didn't have that male influence, right? And that generational thinking of what a dad should bring. So that's one of the things I'm really cognizant of, even especially for the Reds we were talking today about with Big Red, about school, how much it's going to cost, and those choices you make right now, the lifelong impact. And so everything's that same way, right? It doesn't matter if you're planting a tree. It doesn't matter if you're figuring out where to put your barn. All those things you have to think about. What does it do for me today? What does it do in 5 years, 10 years? How much extra work? How much does it save me? All those things.
That I'd like to park there just for a minute, because in my area, talking about the about kids, I don't read a lot of, I really haven't read anything of Joel. I just know about Joel through Jack, because Jack Spirko talks about him. But in my area, that is a big problem. Is the kids on the farm are just kind of expected to help until mom and dad decide to give it to them or pass away. And the successful farms that I've seen have been the ones where, when they hit 18, they're, either they buy into the farm or they're given the farm or they've earned a piece of the farm, because there doesn't seem to be nearly as much resentment that way.
Absolutely. I had a really good friend, a teammate in high school, they had 600 acres of row crop. And then they did a feedlot as well. So it was a big conventional farm. But that kid at 14, because in Idaho back in the day, you got a full license at 14. So when we were in junior high, the dumb kids that had been held back were driving to school. They had student parking in junior high. But he bought a brand new truck every year, even then, because he was working that much. But they had already had a succession plan they were talking about when he was 14 years old.
Wow.
And the farm's turned over. His sister still lives there. She does the books for the farm. She has another job off farm. His wife has a greenhouse on the farm, and she works during the summer when the kids are there. But it's been really awesome to be able to be around that and see what is possible. But they were, like I said, they were thinking about that when he was talking about those things when he was 14 years old.
And that wasn't something traditionally done on farms, at least not a lot.
No.
I think this generation going forward, I think it's going to be, simply because it's built into it. I might be wrong. What do you think?
Well, I think so. I bet probably a third to half are looking at this. But then you have a bunch of the boomers who are like, this is my money. You got to go do your own. I'm going to go to, I'm going to have 3 vacation homes and take vacations all over to Europe and whatnot. And they're spending their money, even though it was passed on to them. But I think on the other side, I think you get more folks, because we're solidly Gen X, right? We were both, I was 75, she was 76. So we're looking at the mistakes that our parents made, and then how do we fix these things? And then again, Joel Salatin, if you haven't read his books, there's a couple that are really worth your time. But generational wealth, how do you get not just your kids, but your great-great-grandchildren, all these lessons that we've learned, how do you pass that down? And how do you make that part of your family's culture? About, just because you work harder than everyone else doesn't mean you're going to be successful or have long-term wealth. There are these other things you have to do. You pay yourself first, stay out of debt. But there's still good debt, right? There are things that if you leverage money to make more money for yourself, that's great. But all these lessons, you've got to be talking to your kids. And we've done a really good job, I think, with the Reds. The Reds are our soulless gingers. So
I get you. I kind of figured. Yep.
Yeah. But we've done a really good job with them about showing them, here's our monthly budget. Here's how much we make. Here's how much we take home. Here are all of our bills. And we talk about it all the time because we sold the place in Texas. The market hadn't spiked all the way, but we got out and did really well. We came to a place where the market hadn't caught on fire yet and bought before things got just silly. Yeah. Because by 2021, the spring of 2021, everything doubled. Yep. Rural land here in the South. It's insane. And trying to show those lessons about delayed gratification. You get 2 donuts if you can wait for having this donut for another 30 minutes. It really is, simple things like that. But so there are all these things. And I am a chronic overthinker. and an overreader. So everything that we do before we jump into anything, I have watched 100 hours of YouTube videos and read about it and really tried to figure out all the pluses and minuses, what it's going to do for us. And then back to Andrea. So where she came into this, so when we moved up here,
I was teaching at the junior high school, 7th grade English. And in Texas, I coached and taught and had the kids. So there was no time really for me. I could go outside, get bitten by fire ants, scared by a 6-foot rat snake. Welcome to Texas.
That was her first day. I pulled a 6-foot long rat snake out of the chicken house. But we had time. So when we came up here, and the pandemic really broke poor kids, right? Yeah. Rich kids, middle class kids, where their parents were involved, they were fine or came out of it better than were before. But from middle class with apathetic parents to poor kids, those kids are broken now. I mean, they had a couple years, they were just sterile. And you think about, I think about me at 14 or 15, if I'd had the internet in my hand and no supervision.
Oh yeah.
I
know what I did without the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So you just have all these kids that the behavioral problems that you're seeing from those kids, and there's the way our schools are set up. There's just no way to fix it. You can't discipline those kids. I mean, she had kids throw books at her in class, and this isn't a small, rural, super conservative, town in Oklahoma. This stuff's going on. And so we talked about it a lot, and financially we were in the place where we were paying for daycare, and he just
kept getting sick. He had 4 earaches in a row, and I was like, "This has to stop because I don't have any more sick leave."
Yeah. Well, part of he come home with a binky, and he didn't have a binky ever.
Yeah,
so
listen, I get you. Trust me.
Yeah, it was baby Fight Club there, just with snot and binkies. So we sat down and did the math, and I worked really hard, got another promotion at work. And I said, I think we could do this and make all the numbers work. And then we started it. And Andrea, because I'm down in Fort Worth, during the week, and she took up
all of it.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
But it was the big thing, taking a step back, is the amount of time we talked about this, and she started seeing, because I am forever grateful about the pandemic, because Andrea went from being blissfully unaware of anything going on in the world to where now she's to the right of Attila the Hun, as far as I'm going to raise my own food. I'm going to, stay strapped everywhere she goes, all these things. And it's just, for our family, such a better deal to have mom at home. And we can talk about how she supplemented her income and all those different things, but she's really carrying the load now, the day-to-day chores. And then I'm selling all the beef and the eggs. But it really has, and that's the other thing too, if you're doing this as a couple and it goes from one person to the other one starts taking the yeoman's share of the work, I have to take a step back from time to time, because I'm telling her what I would do, and she'd be like,
nope.
You're not here, buddy. Let me do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely been something for me that I've had to be cognizant of and be aware of.
So for you, Andrea, did you have much experience homesteading or?
So we lived out in the country, 15 miles. So I'm used to driving everywhere.
15 miles with a stop sign.
And my mom gardened, but I was a basketball player. So everything I did had to do with basketballs. And I knew I wanted to be an educator. So I was very driven that way. So I learned how to be a hard worker and to be driven, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Has it been hard? Was it difficult taking care of it all, or have you kind of got the hang of it now, I suppose?
So last summer when it was 114 and I was in charge of the meat chickens and I lost half of our flock,
2/3.
I was like, why did I decide to do this?
What happened? Just get overheated?
Yeah.
She took it very personally, right? It's one of those things where it was I ordered them the wrong time of year, because we were still in that panic last year, and I took them when I could take them, and we had a couple of things that went wrong, And who's checking 6 times a day going out in the heat when it's 100? And it was a legitimate 114 degrees outside. So who's going out 6 times a day to check on them? And she cried a lot about it. But it's one of those things that, I mean, we lost 2 hogs. I cried about the pigs. Oh man. Yeah. Cause you just feel awful because our goal is to have one bad day on the farm. Right. So when anything that goes wrong outside of harvest day, man, and on a small operation, that's a really, really big deal for us. Cause I had both those pigs sold. So
what happened?
So redundancy is job one on the farm. So you want to automate everything, but you want to have 2 of everything. And what we didn't have is I had 1 water nipple into the pigs, and it failed. They didn't have a second one, and we didn't notice it, and they were dead. So,
how old were they?
They were markets. They were about 40 pounds, 50 pounds for market size. So they were well over 200 pounds.
But you learned from it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
What do you do different next time?
Not have huge conventional pigs during the summertime in the South.
Yeah.
So we've gone to the coonies, which are just way easier, more resilient. And we did an entire podcast on this, but in the South, either for a homestead, especially if you're small, either coonies or American guinea hogs just make a ton of sense. If you've got a bunch of buddies or you've got some teenage boys, the hardest thing for us about conventional pigs is just getting them on the trailer to go to the butcher. That's the single hardest thing, because if they don't want to go,
they're not going.
Yeah. And I keep telling Andrea every time we load livestock, we need to put a camera up. We would make a fortune just with people laughing, telling us what to do. Yeah. Yeah. But, and that there's 2 great books. Temple Grandin, who is a autistic lady out of College Station, Texas, Temple, Texas, somewhere. And then Moving Them, I think it's by Bert Smith. Those 2 books about handling cattle, it's just priceless. The amount of knowledge and wisdom in those 2 things. And Temple's got a great YouTube library as well. But just learning how to move cattle, get them into the trailer to get them to the market, that was one of the few areas that we'd ever had words in our marriage. And there was all kinds of profanity, crying. She threw a bucket at me once. It was really scary, Tim. It was very scary.
It's kind of like backing a camper into a campsite. There's certain things that'll test a marriage, and that's one.
And whatever you do, never say, have you never moved livestock before?
No, Russ, no, I haven't.
It's not what you should say to your beautiful
things
bride.
Like, what's wrong with you? Yeah, no, that's just not that kind of shit doesn't fly. Trust me. I've tried it. I don't know. Somebody recommended it one time, and when the swelling went down, I saw what I did wrong. So I wanted to just share this. This was pretty funny earlier here. I missed it. We're talking about pilots, and Hippocrates Garden said, how do you find out there's a pilot in the room? Don't worry, they'll tell you.
They will.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. So when I started there, the airlines really weren't hiring. And about the end of 2015, they really started hiring. And outside of the pandemic, they haven't stopped. So, and it used to be your first 4 or 5 years, you starved, even going to, a major carrier. And now, good gravy. I made huge mistakes in life, and that was one. It is. They're doing really well. That's the power of a good union there too.
So how did you? So Russ, if it was your idea to start homesteading, how did you warm Andrea up to the idea?
He let me have goats.
Oh, that's what Becky and I do too. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. All right. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
That really was. So, I mean, I had hogs that I think I did hogs for 5 years out of the 6 years in Texas. I had cattle as soon as I started there because I grew up with cows, and then chickens, because if you kill a chicken, who cares, right? If one dies, they're super easy to replace. There's not a ton in there, and we incubate our own eggs, so it's super easy. But it was the goats that really got her into it, and then we've got a 60-foot by 26-foot greenhouse that we're figuring out here. And what else do we have?
rabbits,
ducks,
geese.
Muscovy ducks, geese. So it's a full on.
Did you mind rabbits at all, Andrea, or not? Because Becky, that was one thing she would never let me do when we used to homestead. So
I have 4 does right now and 2 bucks. The one buck, Magic Mike, I thought he would be magical, but he's not.
We're pretty sure he's bad for the home team. He does not like the ladies a bit.
And one of my does, so we have 2 rabbits that we have to butcher. The rest just have, they just kidded, and I can start to rebreed them right now.
So you didn't mind it? Because that was the one thing like Becky, on our honeymoon, she actually tore off her gel nails so that we could pluck chickens, but she would not do rabbits. I don't know. Just, it was never a thing. So
you have to buy your wife the hopper popper. That's the key.
That's the thing that you
stick it, and then you just pull the hind legs up. It is quick, instant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Huh. That's not bad. Yeah. Dad, we always did the chickens with a chunk of wood, couple of nails, and you just put them down through. You don't put the nail through them. Yeah.
We use for the chickens we butcher, we do just kill cones and just bleed them out. And we've got the plucker is worth all the money to have a plucker. And then we didn't have a scalder until this year, and we started using a
turkey fryer.
A turkey fryer.
Really? How'd that work?
Great. It's perfect. And it's got a thermostat. So in the past, we've done over an open flame. And it's so hard to keep it the right temperature. I think it's 148. Mm-hmm. It's the right temperature.
Yeah.
With the turkey cooker, it's got an electronic thermostat, and it's a much smaller surface area of the water, so it's super easy to keep it right on temp. Mm-hmm. It changed everything for us on that side about butchering chickens. Instead of buying, because the professional scalders are $500,
right?
And the turkey fryer is $99. So, and you can cook your turkeys in it at Christmas or Thanksgiving. So there is no downside to it at all.
And that's just one of the little propane ones, or is it an electric?
No, it's electric.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, there's absolutely, as far as a shortcut for chicken processing, for something that's cheap to get you into it, that really did change everything for us about making it easier.
Mm-hmm.
So how hard was it? So how long has it been, Andrea, since you quit working for the man and started working for yourself?
It's been this school year. So last May was when I turned in my teaching keys.
How's it gone?
It has gone really good. It was kind of an adjustment. So I had like the summer, and one way that I supplement my income is I clean houses for an Airbnb.
Nice.
And so in the summer, I was really busy with that. And then because Oklahoma, I guess I was busy until maybe August or September. Mm-hmm. But then I started teaching online school, which has its pros and cons, but it's been something that I can do I can schedule any time that works for me to have classes. And that's usually when Sam, our youngest, is napping.
Yep. So what don't you like about that? Because I've heard lots of positives about it, but what are the downsides so people know?
Well, the older kids, it's usually not the younger kids. The older kids don't like to turn their cameras on. So it's really hard to trying to see if they need help. I can't get any visual clues off a black screen.
Yep.
I don't even know if they're listening.
Or there.
Yeah. But one kid finally, we had a really bad storm on Thursday.
Okay.
And he must live in the same geographic area that I do, because it had just started raining at his house, and he told me to be safe. He wants to be a storm chaser when he grows up. So he was like super excited to hear that I was having a tornado warning, but he said, be safe. So I was like, yes.
He cares about you.
Yeah.
Have you had any twisters come through since you've lived there?
No, just warnings. But on Thursday, I've never seen so much hail.
Ooh.
And it was probably the size of a nickel. But we have, my youngest and I were looking outside the window and the hail came down so hard, the wind was blowing so hard, and the rain was, you couldn't even see across our yard. It was so surreal.
Yeah, it broke one of the skylights in the ceiling.
Oh my
in the
God.
roof.
Okay.
Yeah, so which I've never seen happen. So, but so that's one of the downsides about living here, and that's part of it, right? Is we are in the center of Tornado Alley, and it's one of those things on the preparedness side that we've got a big cellar. So our fruit storage is down there. We've got a kit, and I've got the radio for when I'm not here that sets off the alarm that will wake even the world's deepest sleeper up. And it's just really a simple precaution, right? There's nothing you do about a tornado. It's not like out west where we had forest fires to deal with, and you could try and fight it and save your house and all these wild things. You just go to the cellar, hang out until it passes, because it's usually pretty quick. 30 minutes is about the most time you're ever going to spend down there. It's a big, nice space. We've got chairs, we've got sleeping air mattresses down there. So everything in the world you need to make it as comfortable as you can for that short period of time. And here's one of the other things about homesteading that no one ever talks about is your insurance on your place, right? So having somebody that will insure a farm, and then being a little bit overinsured, because we've made all these improvements and modifications and things. So I'd much rather spend an extra $500 a year to be overinsured than to hope that we're going to come out of something okay if something bad does happen. So for peace of mind, that's just one of those things there.
Was it hard to find good insurance, or was
No, because we live in a rural area. So we're in there's 10,000 people in our county. So, it's, I think 400 or 500 square miles of place, that few people. So that side was, and we have agents that we can talk to. That's another nice thing about small town. You walk in, they know who you are. So that part's really nice, even after we've just been here for 2 years. So that part's really nice.
That's what we have. I have a guy that I have his cell phone. I can text him at 6:00 on a Sunday afternoon or evening, and he can help me. He's been on the golf course and sent me insurance cards before. So that's cool. That's worth a lot, isn't it?
It really is. And that's, part of the reason we left where we were at before is we were in a place where we didn't have a bunch of folks who shared values, right? And it wasn't that there were monsters living around us or anything. It just wasn't a homesteading or a farming community. It was rural, but it wasn't a cohesive community. It was a bunch of folks that commuted to town. So I had a buddy who is a pilot that I love, and hopefully we'll get to see this tonight after all my trash talking about pilots. But he had bought a place up here previous. And I came up to visit quite a bit because he's got 7 ponds in this place, and I enjoy fishing. So we did that and got to know a bunch of the neighbors. And I talked to Andrea. She came up here, and all these wild things had to happen, right? This place came up for sale. It's 0.4 of a mile from his house to ours. We were able to sell our place in a week. Yeah. Because this came open, we had to sell our place. And then we had to find another place to live. I completely remodeled this place from floor to ceiling, exterior, everything. I've gone through the house and done all that in my spare time. But it was such a, and again, whether it was a blessing or whether it was just meant to be, everything worked out. But the community, and I'm in the volunteer fire department here, all those things about being part of that community and earning your bones in the community, right? Showing up when people are sick, their house is on fire. That's a big way to get to know your neighbors and earn a bunch of goodwill.
That's a good one. I'd like to know. Yeah, because we've struggled with that for a few years, but we've become part of the community now. But how important, because that's something we don't maybe always talk about on homesteading and prep. I mean, we talk about community, but we don't necessarily talk about, hey, I've moved to a new town or a new community. How do I integrate? Because it can take time. What do you think?
Part for me, it's hard because I have to be at home a lot because I work from home. Sure. I have Sam. So the community that I've made was from the year that I taught at the school. So I'll go to those kids' games. I'll talk to my coworkers, things like that. And then right now we're looking for a church that we can be a part of. And so we've been going every other weekend to a different one.
That helps a lot.
Yeah, and then, so I joined the American Legion Hall here, and I'm by far the youngest guy there. So
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, you get plugged in there because listen, Gen X guys, we don't join anything, right? And the millennials are even worse. And that's the thing about on a side tangent, as my wife loves these things. For Gen Xers, if there are all these volunteer organizations that have paid off buildings, they don't have any debt, you don't have to raise a ton of money, they have an endowment already going. If you want to get out and really influence your community, boy, between the Kiwanis, Lions Club here is big in town. The American Legion is really, really big for this town. They put up flags you get to meet everybody. And then the volunteer fire department is the other one that's, if you're in a rural area and they have that, there's no training. Don't make no mistake. You can just show up and they'll take you. They just need a body. Can you make fogging this mirror was the only thing they asked me to prove myself. Yeah, and there's some cowboy stuff that goes on there. Okay. But when you look at responding, because in our county, there's no paid fire department anywhere. So they're all volunteer fire departments. They have trainings. They do the best they can. But the bodies are what matters. And we have enough prairie land here where if a range fire does break out, it's a serious thing. Mm-hmm. So, and then house fires are the same thing. That's somebody's home. That's all they have. And when you go to those fires, it gets, and you see how important that stuff is, and they just don't have anything else. Everything you do have becomes, you're that much more grateful for it.
That's cool. I like that. That's some tips. I don't know if I've ever gone there with people before, but
you get to, where all the crap bags are. So the folks that are making hashish in their backyard and they catch something on fire, you're going to know where all the dirt bags are. That's it. The guys that, have a flop house and they're ODing, you're going to get, those responses as well. And then you get to meet all your local law enforcement folks too, because they respond, because we don't have a coroner in the county. So anytime someone passes away in our district, we get called. The folks are there. We take the remains to the funeral home director that shows up, and law enforcement shows up. So you get to make those connections as well. And that's just, again, that stuff matters in a small rural area.
That's great. Yeah. No, it's true. That's neat because volunteer firefighter. And we've got like the, not the Elks Lodge. I can't remember what they're called here now, but there's a few different things. And you're right. I want to join a community group. Like I want to get kicked in the head. I don't really, it's true. My time, that's just what it is. And but I get it. That's great advice, even if it's hard to swallow.
Well, and so from the prepper side, right? I mean, if you want to go out,
that's what we have. Kinsman. That's my brother-in-law. He corrected Kinsman. That's what we have here. They're like the Elks Lodge and the Lions Hall and stuff like that.
But if you want to direct or have the input on the community around you, those organizations tie you into everybody.
Absolutely.
The folks who are going to make those decisions and what businesses come in. I mean, one of the gross things is we've got marijuana dispensaries on every corner. It seems like our little town that's nearest us. And I think that's because I'd lived out west when Colorado and California both legalized weed.
Yeah.
And I don't think they had any idea what was coming. So they hadn't zoned for anything. They hadn't said, in city limits, we're going to give out one business permit and that's going to be it. Or we're not going to allow any of it in city limits. So now you've got everywhere your kid walks to school, you got 22 stoners, eating a bag of chips out in front of the dispensary.
Again, it's legal here across the country, and the only thing that's changed is something else the government's lost money on. So that's what's really happened.
How do you lose money on weed?
The government can do it. I promise.
It's amazing. Yeah,
it is, and it's true. Like I'm not bullshitting it. They have. They have not turned a profit yet, and it's done nothing to eliminate the black and gray market at all yet.
Right.
So
Well, and another way that you can build community is have an event at your house.
really?
In February we had a first aid CPR sort of.
It was like a low level tactical casualty care course. So I had a buddy at work that is a former 18 Zulu. He was Green Beret, retired, super good dude. And he came out with another buddy that had been a paramedic and a SWAT paramedic in Fort Worth. And they put it on, and we paid for it out of pocket. And then we invited 12 friends to that. And it was one of those things where just as half of them were neighbors here and the other half were friends from work, but just in building goodwill and getting folks together, and it was well worth the money just for that mattered to a lot of folks. And we had them do some stuff on farm injuries, PTOs, impairments.
Because we have two neighbors that are right close on either side, and they're young kids, 16 and 14. Yeah. And their uncle, who we're really good friends with, he's like, I drug them here because they are always on their own.
Right. Yeah.
And
that's great.
He doesn't want them to get hurt and not know what to do.
Right. And then we did another, probably 30 minutes on child and infant injuries, CPR, poison, just everything that way for babies and children, things you might see. We had, 3 moms? 4 moms. 4 moms in it.
Yeah.
So it's just things you might see, what to do, choking. So it's just all those things that, and for community building, it was fantastic. So, because Andrea was thinking about going and taking a class, and I'm like, I have this buddy, talk to him. And we paid what she would have paid to go to a workshop for just herself. And we got 12 people through a really good class.
Nice. And so you didn't have any problem with people showing up?
No.
Because I've heard that sometimes when you offer something for free, right?
Yeah. Well, but these were all close friends too. So these are folks that we either at work or things. So it wasn't just putting it out on the internet and folks saying they were going to come and then not coming. So they folks had a little bit of skin in the game. It would have been socially shameful for them not to show up if they told us they were coming. But we provided food. We had one of my other buddies that brought his wife and daughter and young
grandkids.
Son. Yeah. He smoked a brisket for us. So it was awesome. Yeah.
So we fed him.
I know you talked about the, and you guys never give me this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because I always like to hear, but what has been the absolute worst day in homesteading you've had so far?
Killing the 40 chickens.
How come? That was a quick answer. So obviously there's something that mentally scarred you. So what was it?
So you just go out every single day. And when they're chicks, you have to go out more often just to check on them. And they're meat birds. We had the Cornish cross. So it was just, they're awkward. They grow so fast.
And they feel good about growing them.
Because they're just not chickens.
Yep.
But they, he told me to put them in the shade. So I thought that I had put them in the shade. And I take my job on the farm very seriously.
Well, and it was one of those things she hadn't thought about.
The sun setting and it's still 100 degrees. Yeah.
So from about 3 p.m. until almost 8, they were just sitting in the sun.
And I knew that they needed water to live. So I would take them water like 2 or 3 times a day. And because I knew that we were going to use that to butcher and put in our freezers. And then I did the ultimate and killed half of them.
Was that the first time you'd ever dispatched an animal before?
Well,
no, they died.
They died.
She didn't have to kill. She didn't have to do anything.
I'm sorry. Oh,
no. Roast. They were self-roasted chickens.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant after. Yeah. Okay.
No. They died due to exposure.
Because I picked them up, and I was just sobbing because you could feel how hot they were.
Yeah. They have a hell of a. Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, we had babies years ago that showed up on a really hot day and they weren't ventilated properly, and we lost about 3/4 of them before they. Yeah. So How about you, Russ? What was your worst day? Was it the pigs or was there anything else?
I think part of homesteading is problem solving, right? So you're going to have stuff all the time that goes wrong, because every problem that you're going to have is unique because you've learned from other problems. So the next problem is going to be something you hadn't encountered before. So I think I try, like that day was really hard. We've had a couple others, but I think the biggest thing about getting into this is just understanding you're going to have things go wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's just like anything else, right? How you respond to it. And being small enough in what your losses can be. That's one of the reasons we have smaller cattle versus having all big full-size cows, is if we lose if we run 2 cows in the same place, we'd run 1 large cow, and we lose one of those 2 cows, we still have a viable cow. Mm-hmm. When you have just the big Angus and Herefords and you lose one of those, man, it's so much greater of a loss. So I think we've had some rough days, but it's just having that mindset of how do I solve this problem and move on to the next thing. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned selling meat. What have you guys done so far to kind of make some income from homesteading and farming? Because that can be tough.
Yeah. Well, I work with a bunch of rich guys. So they all shop at Whole Foods and Sprouts. So my entire business model is them paying the same for our beef as they pay for ground beef at Whole Foods. Mm-hmm. So one of the things for small operators, right, if you're just getting into the beef side, is don't do the hanging weight, because people aren't dumb, right? And you say the hanging weight was 800 pounds, and they get 2 coolers of meat.
Yes,
and they have to carry it, and you get a bunch of hard feelings, right? So I just say retail weight. So I weigh it in front of them, whatever that is, that's what you're paying, and it's $8 a pound. So that includes steaks, roasts, however you want it cut. I go through the cut sheet with them, make sure they understand. And just because there's a cut on there doesn't mean you have to have that. So if you don't know how to cook a tri-tip steak, or you don't know how to cook a Pikes Peak roast, let's make a hamburger, because you have kids and they're going to eat that hamburger. Mm-hmm. Instead of trying to figure out how to cook oxtail, just have more hamburger, right? But being able to tell them that, having recipes, you'd be amazed how many people don't know how to cook a roast. Mm-hmm. So, wow. Yeah, having a way to cook all these things, and then, hey, Russ, the steak you sold me is real tough. You have a sous vide? Yeah. Okay, let me solve that problem for you. It's going to be 2-3 hours in the sous vide on low. The longer, the better. The more tender the steak's going to be. Pan sear it. Oh, it was the best steak I've ever had, right? They forget that first steak was tough, because now they're cooking it a different way. It's better for their family. They can put it in at whenever. That steak comes out super tender, more flavor, all those things. So it's about everything's just problem solving in on that side. Mm-hmm. Pork, we've struggled to make money on. I think long term, the only thing for a small operation, it's a miracle of big ag, right? They do some great things. When you get 99-cent pork chops, it's just wild, right? Because we're at about $4 a pound just for our production costs, and that's not figuring in time. But for us, the aftermarket the sausage is where we can make money. Mm-hmm. So the smoked sausage, even when I have it processed, I still make a profit on jalapeno cheddar, chorizo, and there's some things that are big down here regionally that I can sell, make sense, and pay for everything for us. So the pork, we're just trying to break even, where we get a free pig in our freezer. And everything I sell just gets us to that $0 mark. Is what my goal is, with 200 pounds of pork in our freezer.
That's not bad. And that's great about, I wouldn't call it upselling, but transforming the product into something you can make money on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's definitely that value add is what I look at there. So I'm turning pork that's, realistically $3-4 a pound, right, on average for ground pork, but with some smoking and some flavoring from a good butcher. Now all of a sudden it's $8 a pound, and no one blinks at that price.
Yes. Isn't that awesome?
The chickens, we're done with Cornish Cross. We bought some Bressie. We'll be butchering in May, our first round of Bressie chickens. We'll see. So I don't know what to tell you on that side. The Cornish Cross, nobody blinked at $15 a bird, but the last time we sold was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think probably now you have to be at $20 a bird to be profitable. And we had a chicken processor, U.S.A. chicken processor, that charges us $3.50 a bird to do everything for us. So that's the reason we're going smaller, not selling now, because we have to do all the work.
Right.
I'm not trying to do 200 birds. The thing that we've been most profitable were the turkeys. So I did free range, organic. I couldn't call them organic, right? Free range, beyond organic turkeys. And I was getting $75 a bird and no one blinked.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the thing that I will probably do that again next year. But that was one of those, there's not a ton of folks doing that down here. And Dallas does not have, DFW is where I work, right? I work in the Fort Worth side, but DFW, the Metroplex, does not have a slow food movement like we did out west.
Okay.
So I'm not competing with anybody. It really is on that side wild how few folks are competing. And then on the eggs, I sell those at work, and I go whatever they're selling for at the commissary on base is what I charge.
Okay.
So I'm at $5 a dozen right now. No one blinks at that, and they're way better than anything you're going to get.
And sometimes you get a duck egg.
Yeah.
Real? Oh, you just mix them in or whatever.
Yeah.
I like duck eggs.
No one's caught on yet, because the Muscovy eggs are not that much bigger than a big chicken egg. So, but yeah, so that's on that side. And then the greenhouse, I don't think we've made any money on the greenhouse. It's all food for us. And then,
well, and we went to Cooney Pig so that if and when we do need to process our own pig, we can do it on the farm.
Yeah, that's great. Because that is, I had to hire a guy with a tractor when we butchered our pigs to, haul them out of the pen and lift them up. And yeah, that's something. What were your input costs for the turkeys? You said they're free range. Did you have much?
Yeah, no, there's almost no input costs in the turkeys. So if you can keep them alive for the first 2 months, they're pretty much bulletproof. They come in with the chickens at night. I bet, so it was $13 for processing. That's what they were charging me at, it used to be called Cobb Creek down in Bynum, Texas. And then I think they were $8 for poult. And then I might've had another $8 in feed each in them.
So about $20.
Yeah. A pound net profit. Yeah.
Wow. So
yeah, it was,
what were the size of them dressed, like roughly?
They were anywhere. I think the smallest was 23 and the largest was 30.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So that's really, I don't know. I mean, sometimes they come on sale, but you got, if you want to buy the cheapest Walmart turkey,
$100 a pound. Yeah.
Yeah.
All day.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. But here's the other thing. So it's just like beef, right? So you get a much more intense turkey flavor on the free range turkey. They're just now there's a lot more dark meat. So I made sure everyone knew that before they bought them. Is the breast is going to be a little bit smaller. There's going to be a lot more dark meat, but everyone raved about the flavor. So super flavorful birds. Like I said, if there was anything I would be doing as a boutique item on my farm, that would be one of the things I would do as for everyone that's buying a pig or a half a beef from you a year, if they can afford $8 a pound for beef, they can afford a $75 turkey.
Sure.
And the other thing is when you have affluent clients, right? The bragging part of it. I bought this from my farmer.
Yes.
It's a free range turkey. Where for us, we're like, yeah, they're running around the yard trying to kill themselves in various, unique ways, right? But we had one running from a semi. The semi was going 70.
There was not much left.
There were feathers for a quarter mile. It was a horror movie scene.
Reminded me of, you remember the movie Pet Sematary? I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. Okay, anyway, don't worry about it. But yeah, there's a scene in it like that. So, oh my God. So how is it? Like you said, you guys trying to load livestock was the biggest threat to your marriage since you've been married. But has it helped or hurt I'm kind of being facetious. I'm sure it's helped, but how has it kind of changed your relationship as you've?
So I have had to go from, helping him when he needed help to me taking over pretty much everything. So I get up and I'm also doing a 75 hard. Do you know what that is?
I seen that on your Instagram. I didn't, but I Googled it. So now I kind of know.
Oh,
so
I put on my rucksack
with 20 pounds.
With 20 pounds in it. And so when I go feed in the morning and water the animals and move the goats and the cows and try to get some in the stanchion, that's my morning workout. So it's like John Willis says, do stuff farm fit is what he always says. So I'm doing farm fit, 75 in the morning. And then when he comes home, and so that's me washing the eggs, collecting the eggs, making sure that I have the right size eggs in the egg cartons, marking the eggs.
She was trying to sneak some small eggs in there, and the clientele wasn't having the small eggs.
And then I do my take care of Sam, do the teaching, run. I was having to run the kids, the older kids, here and there, but thankfully they have their driver's license. So
it only took 7 attempts
for the driver's license.
Yeah,
it's okay. Up here, the driver's test is fairly easy, but the written test is miserable.
No, they passed the written test in the first attempt for both of them. They failed the over-the-road driving test 5 times together, and then on their 6th and 7th attempts combined, they finally passed.
Good for them.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was really hard. Driving, getting up at midnight to go get the girls, and then trying to get the baby back down. That was tough. Now that that's over. And
it is weird because, like he said earlier, when I don't even remember what we were talking about one time, but I was like, no, I don't really think that's a good idea. They don't like that part of the farm. And he had to admit, he's like, oh, I guess I never thought about that because I don't know the animals anymore.
Yeah. And that's one of the things about, if you're going to go down this road together, there has to be give and take. And the easiest thing for me to say is I was wrong, right? Andrea, it's super hard. Golly, I have to get pliers out and yank on a tooth. So I'm going to take it if you don't say it. But just being able to say, hey, I was wrong, and working your relationship, because it's going to go one of two ways, guys. Either you're going to get divorced, or you're going to have the best marriage. I have a better marriage than any of my buddies.
Yep.
And I don't say that lightly. It has made our relationship so much more fun. We're on the same page, and we're moving the same direction. I have the happiest life that I could ever imagine. So on that side, if you work on it, things can be really, really great.
So you mentioned the kids a little bit. How have they kind of taken to this?
So I think they like that I'm home more and I'm not stressed out, but the older two don't really like the farm. Mm-hmm. But Sam is in it to win it.
Yeah.
He loves to be outside. He loves the animals. He likes to go catch chicks, and he likes to try to hold the bunnies, and he likes to help, even if that means he just dumps out the water that I just filled up.
Oh, yeah.
We saw her dump it out when it was, all mucked up. So he's still helping. But I think the lessons that the kids have taken from the farm, because I don't know if the girls are ever homestead or not, but I know as far as their expectations for marriage and for what they're going to expect from their family and their husband, because we live in the best time in the world, right? If you have a problem and you don't know how to fix it, you've got YouTube, you've got Rumble, you've got all these different things that you can go to, search engines. ChatGPT.
Oh, I was using it tonight.
I was doing our taxes the other day, and I'm like, how do I write off our barn? And I went in there, and it gave me a page and a half of detailed instructions, and sure as shit, went through and started looking at everything. It was a huge
a freaking game changer.
It really is.
I just typed in, I was doing research for a show tonight, and it probably saved me 6 hours of digging. Yeah. And it can find stuff. I don't know. Eventually, I'm sure we're going to call him they or he or she, whatever. But
Zeezer. I like Zeezer.
Zeezer, that works. Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure it has. Anyway, everything has a good and a bad side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I'm going to use the hell out of it. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
But I think on the homesteading side, when you're a couple and you're both doing it, you're either working on that relationship, and you have to have shared goals. We know, like retirement, what we want to do we've got probably the next 10 years easily mapped out about projects, what we want to do, where we're going to go, orchards, planting trees,
conferences to go to.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because the conference at Willis's place last year, that it's kind of, I'm like, I don't know how this is going to be because I hate people.
Yeah. It's not bad.
No, it was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah, I had a great time. I mean, and that's the thing you worry with is it going to be worth my time, right?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of speakers that I've seen, because I used to go to coaching clinics all the time, and you'd have one great speaker and the rest you just wanted to, shove toothpicks underneath your fingernails.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
John, he said, because I usually listen to his nightly meeting that he has, or talk, whatever. And he said, if you go to SRF, then you need to make sure that you come up so I know who you are. And so I did. And I said, listen, I'm Andrea. I come to your nightly. I'm the one that asks you all those weird questions about rabbits. And so then he gave me the tour of his little place, and it was totally awesome. And then I got to meet Nicole, and then I got to ask you the question about Fountain.
It's, I don't know. Yeah. So was that your guys' first kind of prepping, homesteading kind of event you ever went to?
I went to the owner of Cobb Creek was a hedge fund guy. The folks that process their chickens, he bought it as an investment and made a ton of money when he sold out. But Joel Salatin, he brought Joel up for a 3-day conference. So I'd been to that.
Okay.
And the thing, and Joel's a great guy, but if you've read Joel's books or you've seen his YouTube channel,
Sure.
There was nothing new at that. And, it wasn't like it was a waste of money because I got to meet, somebody that's in the space that's done a lot for the space. It's been there, pretty much first on the making money as a homesteader side. But yeah, I think our plan moving forward is to use that as vacation time and write it off as a business expense, go do some things there. But it was, the SRF was really, really worth my time. I'm looking forward to the next one. And I think we're going to Nicole's thing, right?
Are you guys going to LFTN?
And
I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Yeah. And it's funny because me, coming as a speaker, I rarely listen to other speakers. I spend 95% of my time walking and talking, and I love it. Like the networking that you make. I assume you guys did a little networking while you were there.
So
we brought Samuel.
Yeah.
So we had a 2-year-old with us at the time.
And I pretty much spent the time fangirling.
The first one, stop. I get it.
Because I was like, oh, there's Jack Spirko. Oh, there's Nicole. Oh, there's Mama Sauce. Oh, there's Tim.
It was my first time meeting Jack as well. So it's just funny how that is. But it's, that's the event that I never ever mind promoting because, and I've only been to one SRF, and it's like, it's just something special. It's quick. I didn't even know before I went. I was like, okay, well, it's at John's, and I love John, think the world of him, but I didn't know what the event would be like, and it's unreal how they pack a lot into those 2 days.
Yeah, it really was a great use of time, and just the practicality of everything. And it had a wide range. It had a guy there talking about tax stuff on the farm. That's one of the things too. If you're homesteading right now, I honestly believe I could stop working and just be a handyman locally and make more money than I was making before. Just because I'll show up, I don't use drugs, and if I don't know what your problem is, I can figure it out. And there's just in this area, folks just won't even show up. It's wild how
it's that way everywhere. Absolutely everywhere.
Open the handyman fixing siding, just really texturing. I got ghosted by a contractor that had done my buddy's house that I had great conversations with.
Yeah. I don't understand it.
Well, I ended up saving $25,000 because I did it myself. So that
it's
part.
Unreal.
What's that?
It's unreal. I don't know why they don't. I don't get it. Yeah.
So,
and then just meeting everybody at SRF and then knowing that I could do the same things that y'all do.
Mm-hmm.
It just gave me more confidence, which is very weird for a 46-year-old. But like on Tuesday, I'm going to the community college to take a welding class for 4 nights. So I can work. Then it's another skill that I can use for a service, welding our fences around here. Or maybe there's a farmer down the road who could use me to weld.
Yeah, because her dad's a machinist. So for our wedding gift, he gave me this sweet little, it's a Tweco MIG-TIG stick welder. It's a beautiful little machine. I'd had it for 9 years before I learned how to use it. So I could stick well because I did in high school, right, in ag class. But the MIG welding is a revelation about how much easier that is than stick welding. So she's going to go, and I'm sure she'll, because you know how it is with women, same with shooting. Women take construction better. She will be a better welder than me in a week, and it hurts my pride. But I know it's coming, so I'm ready for it.
Becky's the same way. She can shoot. She doesn't even have to try, and she can shoot a lot better than I can. So yeah, I get it. But that's cool. I love that. I would like make sure you send me an email or a message on social. I want to hear how your welding class went.
I will. And then in April, I'm going back down to Texas to take a medical refuge.
Wow.
First responder. I'm so pumped.
Is that something you would have done a few years ago?
No.
No.
And
so where does that come from?
The pandemic.
Yeah. Because I'm going to guess the night before you go to those events, are you still a little nervous?
Oh yeah. That's how I am by nature though, because even I was a teacher for 23 years, and before the first day of school, I was so nervous.
Every year.
Don't feel, but you know what? Listen, Becky always knows. Whenever 2 days before the first big snowstorm of the year, I'm a bundle of nerves. So it's normal, but the difference is you're going and doing it. Mm-hmm. So even though you still get nervous and you still do it, that's awesome. Yeah.
Well, with the first aid class that we had at our house, it was a good refresher for me, because the last time I had taken a first aid class was in college.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was just good, but I knew that I wanted more. So I was like, well, that was really great, honey, but I'm still going to sign up for Bears class.
How long is Bears class?
I think it's 3 hours, because I'm just doing the first responder.
Okay. Hunter wanted to know, I said, Bears teaching in Texas. Where is that and when is it?
That's in Waco.
Yeah. Okay.
Central Texas.
Our good friend that lives in the next town over, he knows Bear really well, and he's like, listen, if you can't get in, I'll get you in. And the one in Waco is the best one to go to anyways. And I don't know if Bear's going to actually be there or not, but sure. I know his people will be. And our friend Kyle, he's like, it's going to change your life.
That's awesome.
So then maybe that will make me also want to be part of the volunteer fire department as well, since we're here. I just want to do things.
That is cool. I don't know what. Yeah. Anyway, that is awesome. Good. I'm proud of you. Yeah, that's a big step. Any of that's a big step, Mm-hmm. I wanted to share this here. Said, I fly paramotors and I'm scared of heights. It's what firefighting taught me. Afraid is fine, but do it anyway. Practice overcoming fear so you can when needed.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what you do? Or at least try to?
Yep. Well, because, even though I killed half that flock of chickens, we still had half left, and we had them so long that they ended up turning into semi-normal chickens. Yes, they did, because the one lone rooster that we had left, he was like a hop stepper. I don't know.
They look like people at Walmart as chickens.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
They were just super obese. Papa Chicken had lost some toes from the diabetes. So.
But they would scratch, and look for food, which none of our other Cornish cross. I mean, we didn't have them that long because we just butchered them, but we just didn't have time this winter. And he finally got taken out, I'm pretty sure, by a neighbor dog. Even though when I put it on my Facebook page, they were like, I'm pretty sure a hawk. And I'm like, no, there's no way a hawk could drag. He was 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It's the biggest chicken I've ever seen in my life. Just dense. But so on that side, on the homesteading side, on the first date, I don't think you're going to have any regrets about going and getting a higher level of training, especially the more rural you are. So for us here, best response is 20 minutes. That's if everything goes right. And there's actually a train in between us and where the ambulance is in this county. Mm-hmm. So if that train is stopped in the tracks, which happens frequently, it can be 35, 40 minutes to get to you. So it's a real thing, right? And I went in as a medic into the Air Force. That was my first AFSC. And then I've had a bunch of training in the interim, and I've tried to stay up as much as I can on that, and being in the fire department helps. But again, it's problem solving, right? There's only so many things. It's bleeding, or it's airway, or you're choking, right? So there are only so many things that can be the problem. And how do you solve a bleeding problem? How do you solve airway problems, right? But until you practice with somebody yelling at you, or it actually matters. Mm-hmm. And the other part, I think, for folks going down that road is to remember, like, CPR works 10 to 15% of the time, best case.
Yeah.
Best case. So you're going to work with that person. That's always the hardest thing when you go in and the person's, they're gone, right? And after a couple times, and the family is always the same thing. Do something, right? It's always do something. So we'll work on a body that we know is dead until the paramedics get there. And, because we can't call it. It has to be the paramedics that call it. Sure. So we'll work. But that's just one of those things, right? Is in this life that we're living, death's part of it, right? Mm-hmm. And having your will and there are all these tertiary things connected to that about, having the understanding of, I'm not going to live forever. What is the plan? A living trust for the farm, so we don't have the tax implications for Samuel or the girls and all those things. It's all part of it. That's as much part of it as it is picking out where we're going to order seeds from this year.
I like that. It's one of I had Letty Lou on the show for almost 2 years ago now, I think. And I had her come on and talk about death because I don't know if there's any subject in homesteading and prepping we talk about the least.
Yeah.
Because, in prepping, at least, death is failure, right? So,
right.
But you have to, none of us get out alive, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And it's so I spent a year and a half as a veteran county service officer. And the big thing there was, it was right at the tail end. I was just burying World War II vets and Korean vets every week. I went to a funeral. And there were only two kinds of widows that came to my office, right? There was a widow that had all of her paperwork in order, right? And there was the widow that came in, had no idea, didn't know where anything was. And seeing those two extremes between the man who'd taken an extra, couple of hours to do something, and the guy who'd never done anything, my goodness, men, do not do that to your woman. Don't do that to your wife. Don't do it to your kids. Handle your business tomorrow. Put it on your list. If you don't have a will, go get it. If you have land, go get a living trust or talk to somebody. It's $500 to go talk to a good lawyer for 2 hours versus how much you want to pay the tax man to decide what happens to your stuff. So those are the options, right? Where do you want to be buried? That's every bit as important as where you're going to plant a tree. And we're all going to die. So anyways.
That's okay. No, thank you. I didn't know we were going there. That's great.
Yeah.
I want to share this. Am I having a brain fart? Is it Hippocrates or I don't know.
Hippocrates
Garden? Yeah. And he said there's a really, really good video from Dr. Peter Saul of Australia on death and dying. I've recommended it so many times. Family always says we thought there would be time, and they are 93.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So and out here, too, because rural areas in the States are so much older than the cities, right?
Yes.
So it's wild to me. Folks have no plan, don't know where anything is. And Spirico, that was one of his things that he used to talk about all the time, is having that binder with all your credit cards in there and all your passwords and everything. Where are you going to be buried? how do you want do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want your ashes in an urn on the fireplace so you can watch, Sven, her sweet snooze that she's going to marry afterwards, so I can haunt his ass? Or do you want to, have those spread someplace? Whatever it is, write that stuff down tonight and be done with it and go get, whatever your state locality needs you to do to make it official, notarize, whatever. Go get that handled.
I got, I think I saved about 5 questions from the community.
Okay.
You guys got a few minutes to answer?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the highlight of the day.
So, Haas says, do you guys have any hydroponics permaculture on the farm?
Okay, so I have 3 ICB totes that are just waiting for me to turn it into hydroponics.
Yeah, I've got
Nice.
I've got 14 Dutch buckets that I grew last year.
Saw those on Instagram.
Yeah, so I was really, really blown away, and we should probably we got down to 27 last night, so that's why we haven't started yet. But it's probably going to be hopefully tomorrow or next weekend, get those started again. Because that's the thing about when you start your own seeds, who cares? You've got a penny in that seed, that start. So throw them out there. If it makes it, great. If it doesn't, throw another one in the next week, right? But the Dutch buckets, super easy, way easier to grow in the ground.
Is that crack key? Are they water or are they?
It's water. So it's on a little timer. If you Google Dutch bucket, there's an old video series out there. You'll know the guy I'm talking about because it's sweet 90s, cut off shorts. But it's really straightforward to the point. I can't remember his name. I'll send you the link. But buckets. I use perlite. Unless you have cheap perlite near you, just go get pea gravel.
Okay.
And grow it in because pea gravel is way cheaper. It's heavier, but you're only going to set it up once if you're doing it right. And the pump works 15 minutes, 4 times a day, and it goes basically on top. The roots get what they need to get. They grow down through all those gaps in the rock or the perlite. It was stupid easy. It really was. And they were 8 feet tall in less than 2 months.
Yep.
So that I can't say enough good things about for the time investment for how little time. It's $20 pump. You go buy the buckets on Facebook Marketplace or on Craigslist. Don't spend more than a bucket.
I was eyeing up your square pails. I love those things. I seen them in your picture. I was like, I got to ask him about his buckets.
Yeah. Those are from a creamery. They were a buck a piece. So
that's great. In square pails, square buckets, whatever. They're awesome. They a lot harder to tip over. Yeah.
Plumbing was super easy. There's a little gauge. Anyways, I'll send you the link on where that is, but that was super easy. We've got heavy clay soil here. Where we're at in Milford, I put down 2 feet of compost in our greenhouse. That's what I did during the pandemic. Our neighbor next door had sheep that he pinned, so I had a front end loader. So we had unlimited compost. Where now our soil is great, but it's really tough to grow tomatoes in.
But it will be good because we have all this rabbit and goat poop that we can turn into compost that we were able to go to. Spirko had like a weird pay $20, get fed, load up some compost piles, learn how to do this at your house. So that's what we learned how to do.
Yeah.
Any plans on, so you're going to do IBC totes, you're going to turn them into, did you say hydroponics?
Yes, and maybe aquaponics. I've been asked, I asked John what kind of vegetables did he grow that he got the biggest bang for his buck, because last year it was so hot and we couldn't get enough water to all of our vegetables that it all ended up dying. So I figure,
well, the bull got into the greenhouse and ate everything too.
And
really?
Yeah.
Wow. How are you going to solve that?
He's hamburger now.
That did it. Okay.
And then for permaculture, we have the start of a guild forest.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got right at 28 fruit trees in the ground. And then I just planted another 25 mulberry and 25 elderberry. So, and then I've got another half dozen peach trees on their way. It should be here next week.
And
Cornelius cherries.
We just used the bare root stock from Missouri.
Yeah. So here's the thing. If you're in the States, so the University of Missouri Conservation Service, their extension office, if you Google it, you'll find it. Okay. They sell seedlings for anywhere from 25 to 60 cents per seedling. These are bare root, and they're pushing 3 feet tall. They are super healthy. The shipping is $18 flat rate, and persimmon, they have a full line of hardwoods and coniferous trees, and then they've got a limited amount of fruit trees, but they do have mulberry, elderberry, persimmon, and then they have some Chickasaw plum, Cherokee plum, depending on what racial slur you want to throw out there. They've got those available as well, but the price, you can't beat it. They had cottonwood that we bought this year for fodder trees. And that's why we planted the extra mulberries, was for fodder as well.
That's a great tip. Did you say Missouri? Is that right?
Yeah, University of Missouri Extension Service, Conservation Service. Bang for your buck. They're super healthy plants. There is no place that comes close to that price.
And they'll ship anywhere in the country.
Yes, anywhere in the States. Yeah, it's probably the 48. And you'll have some restrictions. Some states you can't bring in fruit trees or whatever, depending on who's put up fences. But it is, as for a homestead, for the money, man, you can't beat it. You just can't. But walnuts, pecans, I mean, they have everything in the world you could ever hope for at that price point. It's fantastic.
This one might be for you, Russ, because you were talking about getting good insurance earlier.
Yeah.
So Brady's Garden. Yeah. Wants to know, how do you know if it's good insurance?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the big thing is I went with cost plus 25%. That's what I'm paying extra for.
Oh, you can tell about Kyle's friend.
Oh yeah. So that's, and the reason I did that, the only reason I knew about this, I'll take a step back, is I have 2 buddies named Kyle here because that was the only name they were giving out in 1982 to white dudes. But his best friend from high school, is a doctor, was over the McKenzie River in Oregon, had just bought the place. Beautiful. I mean, unbelievably pretty place. Wildfire comes through. He got the money back to buy the piece of burnt land. Couldn't rebuild anything. He had just enough to pay the note off, not enough to rebuild anything. So because he had gone with the minimum insurance to save that money. So my best friend from Idaho was an insurance agent for a while. About 4 years. So we talked about this. And what the cost plus 25% is the actual cost of buying all your goods, the house being rebuilt to the way it was before. And then at the end of that process, they paid all your costs and they scratch your check for another 25%. So it's again, like I said, it's an extra $500 a year versus what I was paying before. But for the cost of today's prices, an extra 10 times eaten out a year.
You're adding $40 a month to your payment.
Yeah. That's it.
Right?
That's it. Yeah. We pay yearly down here, but yeah, that in my mind, that was a no brainer, is to have that. So at the end, so whatever shortfalls, things that you didn't have in your policy, things you didn't see about, that 25% should make you whole and get you to at least the same place you were before you left. And then having in your policy, so the entire time up to a year, they'll pay for alternative lodging.
Yes.
So that's in the policy. Here, because of tornadoes, we have a metal roof. The cellar is part of that policy. My shop's part of that policy. My tools are in that policy. So but it's definitely something to go talk with the agent. And you never know, right, about the good insurance. But so Farm Bureau is who we're with here in Oklahoma. And, I mean, that's a really old, long-term, farm-friendly, and financially stable as much as anyone is today, right? But so that's what we went with.
Oh, we are going to do solar.
Yeah, so with the Trump bucks, I bought 2 Sunday Boy 6K inverters. There are 2 separate ones. And then I bought, with the Biden bucks, we bought 36 gray market solar panels. So there's solarelec.com. They're out of Miami. They've been around for he's been in business almost 40 years. They're used solar panels.
Okay.
And they have thousands of them in this warehouse down there. English is not the first language of any of the Cubans answering the phone down there, but they were fantastic. It was 30 cents on the dollar versus new. The panels I got were 3 years old. So if you buy solar for your house, if you lease the solar and you die, what happens to those panels? Right? They get repossessed. They come, they take those panels off the house, they get sold for pennies on the dollar at auction. And there are a ton of these folks across the country selling used solar panels. I went with Astra Energy, I think, because they have their own insurance policy for 25 years on the panels. But the thing about solar panels, it was a hedge against inflation. That was the reason. That's what I was looking at. And I figured at the time when I bought them, it would take about 11 years to pay back. That was with our monthly bill averaging $100 a month. I mean, our monthly bill is over $200 a month now. In just 3 years, it's already doubled. So now the payback is going to be 4 to 5 years.
Wow.
So that's the only thing that makes sense, because all you're doing, in my mind, if you're not off grid, and we're not, all you're doing is you're paying up front for your today's price for solar into the future. So it's just a hedge against inflation. If the price stays the same, you've got a fixed cost for the next X number of years till you break even, right? If the price goes up, you've gotten that money back on the back end. So that's all it is.
Next is, do you have to deal with the state ag department when you're selling your meat or veggies or anything?
So we're
allowed versus able, you know?
Yeah. No. So Texas had fantastic cottage food laws. You can do, I think, up to 20,000 chickens a year in Texas before you have to be U.S.A. inspected, which is just God, I couldn't imagine killing 100 chickens a day.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma, there are a few caveats here, but for the most part, all of our beef, right now we're using a USDA inspected butcher. So all that stuff's fine to resell, their name stamped on it. I had some places down. So you just have to be smart about it. The way when you're selling beef, if you're in a place where you can't resell beef, when you take that beef in, that beef doesn't belong to you. You've already sold it to this customer.
Mm-hmm.
So you're delivering this beef for Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Smith's name's going to be in everything. You're paying the bill as a service, and you're going to go get recouped from Mrs. Smith, right?
It's all semantics.
It is. Yeah. It really is. And I mean, we got stopped for the first time last year in October. We were taking, we had 4 beef last year at one time. And, the ag folks were at the exit, and, it was a 12-minute conversation, super friendly. Texas is really good about, because we're coming from Oklahoma down to Texas. As long as you're going to a butcher, there was no paperwork. You're going to butcher. All the stories matched. They let, it's good conversation. They were friendly. We went.
That's awesome.
But the big thing is, if you're selling to people you're going to have a much different experience than if you're trying to advertise and bring in, random strangers. Because you're going to get a certain percentage of crazy. And even among friends and people that you deal with, right? Great recent story. We have a guy that he's retired. My buddy Kyle that I run cows with, he was one of the groomsmen in his wedding, right? This guy was trying to get us to sell him steaks for $8 a pound. He didn't want the hamburger. He just wanted all steak. I'm like, that's not how this works. So, and the thing was, we were very polite and friendly to him, but we will never, ever let that guy know again that we have beef to sell. So you want to, cherish your good customers, and you want to fire your bad customers. And we'll never talk to that guy about anything beef related. He is out honey, eggs, everything. He's dead to us now.
Yeah, because it's not worth it.
No, it's not.
I learned that early on. I fired a few customers.
Yeah.
Got one more here for you. Skane's Girl says, how much space does it take to raise turkeys?
So turkeys take more space than you'd think. Free range is your best option on them, because they're really good about coming back. If you raise them with the chickens, they'll just go where the chickens go and come back. The thing that I learned on turkeys is don't confine them to a small space the night before you're going to butcher them, because it looks like Mike Tyson went through and they fought the entire night. Their faces were all bruised and rearranged. I bring them in there, and the Mexican fellow that was doing the processing, he's like, you put them in a small space, huh? Yeah. So they need space to roost. They can't be in a small space, and they have to have a place to get off the ground, or they're going to fight on the ground. Okay. So, but as long as they have roost, they're not doing any one-legged, back kicks.
And she might want to know like what's like in Milford where we raise these turkeys. It was an old horse barn, so the chicken coop was in one hole.
Yeah, one of the stalls.
One of the stalls.
Yeah, so it was about 10 by 10, 10 by 12, something like that. So it wasn't a big space.
And they were only all together when they came in for the night.
Yeah, and in roosting, they were fine. So I put them in, I had a chicken coop that I put them all in, one of the Siskovich type chicken coops that I put them in. It was too small, too small. So, but up until that point, as long as they have a place to roost, they figure stuff out fairly easily. If you get aggressive turkeys or aggressive roosters, that day, so you get one shot. And the other thing is that temperament is part of heritability. So you don't want that rooster fertilizing your eggs, anyways. You want super docile, very protective of their hens, but just ignores humans. That's what you're looking for in roosters. Mm-hmm. And if you 3 or 4 generations of breeding that in, you get some really, really sweet roosters that will go fight coyotes until their last breath to save the ladies. And that's what you're looking for.
Well, guys, we've done well. We killed an hour and a half just like that. So that's great.
I'm a chatty bitch.
No, I love it. Anytime that I can just sit back and ask a few questions, it makes my day, my week. I love it. And it's fun talking. But how does everybody find you if they want to follow you? Now, I didn't mention this earlier and I should have, but I have all your links in everywhere. So the description. Okay. So first off, that's the way. But where are you guys? So if people want to support you and find you, what do they do?
We're on Facebook, Instagram. We have a blog, which the 75 hard.
It's really cut into her blogging time.
Cut into my blogging time.
4 hours a day working out will do that to you.
Yep.
But we have a blog, Snow Farms. Everything is Snow Farms, or we each have our own accounts as well.
Yeah. So I think what Instagram is probably the best place to go because you can find everything from there. You can see what we're doing. So, was that snow.farms.ok?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we've got the little podcast going too. And the big thing about the podcast is basically that's geared to, if I was 25 and thinking about this, answering those questions of the how and the why and what we're doing, and just all my best mistakes, sharing what those were and how to avoid those. Mm-hmm. So
I shared your blog URL there in the comments again too. So I pinned it tonight, but after a while it just kind of gets lost in the shuffle.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I'd love to have you back again in a few months, see how your journey's gone. That
would be awesome.
Yeah. Anytime you want to have us back. Yeah.
Oh,
we'd love to. And thank you very much for having us. Really appreciate the time and you're super sweet in person meeting you, and look forward to seeing you again in Tennessee later on this year.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll be there. And then I don't know if you'll be at SRF in October, but I'll be there as well. So
there's a really good chance about the October thing as well, because again, we don't get out that much, and it's a short burst. It's easy to get down to, and it was super actionable information that we got.
Mm-hmm.
So it was well worth the time.
Well, thank you guys. If you want to hang for a second in the background, I'll close up and I'll be right back with you. You're okay?
Okay. Yep.
Perfect. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that. This was fun. We overcame. We overcame everything and anything, and we got a good show out of it. These guys were great. I absolutely want to have them back on. So make sure you get out and support them as far as Snow Farms. Go there and give them support on their blog, on their podcast, on their YouTube channel, on Instagram, all of that. So, and also don't forget about Self-Reliance Festival, because this is the last episode basically before the event starts. So get out, get your tickets, and I will see you next Thursday with another in the installment of our Empty Container series. We're going to be doing 55-gallon drums. So as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.